corner. You know that I go bring Wahala. You know that I go bring Wahala. Are you sure you want to, oh yeah? You see me sit up on the corner. You know that I go bring Wahala. Are you sure you want to, oh yeah? Are you sure you want to, oh yeah? Life move fast when you're having fun. They all love on the pretty girls. Better make me your number one. Life move fast when you're having fun. They all love on the pretty girls. Better make me your number one. Better make me your number one. You already know an island girl. You already know an island girl like me will change your life. Let treat and do you right. You already know an island girl. You already know an island girl like me will change your life. Let treat and do you right. You already know an island girl. You already know it. You already know an island girl. You already know an island girl. You see me sit up on the corner. You know that I go bring Wahala. You know that I go bring Wahala. Are you sure you want to, oh yeah? You see me sit up on the corner. You know that I go bring Wahala. Are you sure you want to, oh yeah? Are you sure you want to, oh yeah? Life move fast when you're having fun. They all love on the pretty girls. Better make me your number one. Life move fast when you're having fun. They all love on the pretty girls. Better make me your number one. Better make me your number one. You already know an island girl. You already know an island girl like me will change your life. Let treat and do you right. You already know an island girl. You already know an island girl like me will change your life. Let treat and do you right. You already know an island girl. You already know it. You already know an island girl. You already know an island girl. You already know it. You already know an island girl. Pretty girls, life move fast when you're having fun. Pretty girls, life move fast when you're having fun. Life move fast when you're having fun. Better make me your number one. Better make me your number one. Better make me your number one. Pretty girls, life move fast when you're having fun. They all love on the pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl. You already know an island girl. You already know an island girl like me will change your life.
And they are taller than me, which is pretty damn impressive. And to be honest, these look really, really good compared to my old panels that I have right now. Also, these have the black aluminum frame, which I'm a big fan of. All right, anyway, I was going to give you the quick measurements. 40 and 7/8 wide, 69 and 1/8 tall, and 1 and 3/8 thick. There are 10 cells tall by 6 cells wide. So 60 cells on each side for a total of 120 cells. All right, so let me turn it around for the backside if you want to see that real quick. On the backside, of course, you have your MC4 connections. I would say that these wires are kind of small, and it only gives you enough room, you know, to series over to the next panel. You do have 2 different places for your mounting, and then it also has a spot for grounding. And then obviously the last thing is the sticker or specs.
Getting a business loan has never been easier. But where do you look? Lendio, as a loan marketplace, has facilitated over 300,000 loans with access to over 75 lenders. This means business owners can shop efficiently and secure funds in as little as 24 hours. Now,
All right, thank y'all for joining online. We'll be getting started shortly. We are going to wait for some more people to log on via Zoom, but we have a great presentation for you guys. Stay tuned.
Baby, come to me, come to me. Your secrets are safe with me, baby, baby. Wonder if you know how you drive me crazy, crazy. About to make me jump in a ride straight to your door. I'm coming for your love. Please don't keep me waiting. No, you and I, how did we get so tied up, so tied? Truth and lies got us stuck in time. Now it's so tight. Party o'clock don't stop until the morning. Plenty juice in my cup will surely get me right. I hold a corner on my waist for ya. It's the vibe tonight. It's party o'clock, yeah, you know that it's that time. Oh, baby, come to me, come to me. Your secrets are safe with me, with me.
All right, all right. Thank y'all for joining. Zoom kicked me out, but we're still on the iPad, so I'm just gonna speak from here. So today we have our top producer listing panel. They'll give you tips and resources on how your listings. So we're just waiting for everybody to settle down, and we'll be starting in 60 seconds.
Yeah, it was just.
So will they be able to hear from the volume over here to over there, or I have to speak louder?
Can y'all hear on Zoom?
Because I can't hear them.
Yes, we can hear.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so just to introduce everyone, we have Miss LaQuana Davis. We have Miss Kalisha Collins. There's the feedback. Is that better, y'all? And then we
Yes.
have Ms. Mark
Yes, that's
Harrison.
Hi.
And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Rick Davis.
Hello.
And our moderator, Ms. Jackie Curry. All right, so I'm gonna turn it over to you all. Let's get this thing started.
Okay, so today is our listing preparation for our top producer editions, okay? So here's what you will learn today. Proven methods from top producers to boost listing attention, how to engage audience and trigger brand interactions, strategies to alleviate brand presence in the real estate market. So those are just a few things that you will learn today from our panel, okay? So as a new realtor, when it comes to listing a property, they don't necessarily know what questions to ask. So today's panel is going to assist the agents with how to properly list a property and what components are very important when it comes to listing that property. So the first set of questions is around the experience and the insight of our panel. So my first question would be to Kalisha. What advice do you have for a new agent when it comes to listing property?
When it comes to, I would always advise research the property first. Research the property, pull up all the tax information, all that stuff there, and run your comps before you actually even go to have that sit down with your potential listing client.
Okay, what I would like for the people on Zoom to do, if you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat. We will get to them eventually, we will get to them today. Before we get our presentation. Okay, so anybody would like to help add to what Ms. Collins said?
Yes, so LaQuana, she's right. You want to do your upfront research on the property, and then from the initial telephone call, you know, when prospective seller is calling you or you are calling them, right, to solicit the listing itself. So sometimes it starts with doing evaluation, right? So if you're offering something of value to them to get them to set the appointment with you initially, right? And that would draw them in and be able to set the appointment with them, right? Once you get that appointment set, you do the research on the property, you want to schedule an appointment, so you still need to view the property to even give them any type of information.
Yes.
Right?
Most
So
definitely.
you don't want to just throw numbers out there initially.
Right.
And so what I do also is just kind of create a seller's guide, so they can kind of look at it and have preparation of all the things that they may have to do going into it. So an email, maybe a follow-up after the initial phone call that we have.
So I have a question from what Ms. Davis just presented. Why is it very important to go out and view the property before you start throwing out estimated values of the property?
Oh, shoot, it might not have no walls. And that will determine the value. So if you can set your eyes on it, you can see if it's outdated or if it's updated, maybe those comps that you pull ahead of time, those are for updated properties. If you go in and see, oh, they need a little bit of work done or they change some things, that can affect your evaluation. So if you don't see it, your numbers will be kind of skewed.
And that's really important because your sellers can have emotional attachments to the property. So they look at it one way and they'll give you this romanticized description of it. And then you get there as an outsider walking in, especially as a realtor, we look at these properties all day long and we walk in there in the property and like, oh my God, it's not what they said it was. So.
Yeah, so you gotta see.
You really have to see it.
One of the things I've always felt like is really important as far as walking a property or viewing a property before you have listing presentations to get a feel for the community.
Okay.
See if any of the neighbors are listing their homes, if there's any other homes for sale, gives you an idea of what a potential buyer would see. Because when you put yourself in their position, you understand that if there are several homes in a zip code, you'll probably try to take a look at all of them on the same day for efficiency as far as travel and checking these things out in a timely manner. So from that standpoint, I think it's always best to see what the neighbors are doing in the community. Do some research and see as far as if they're selling it, how long they've been on the market, so that you can accurately represent for your potential listing client what's going on in their immediate.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of him because that's great that you said that, because a lot of times when you're calling or they're calling you, the seller, they know that their neighbors are selling, right? So you want to manage expectations as well. So they're already thinking, oh, neighbor John over here got it already listed for this amount, and they're already expecting that they're going to get that amount. So before you put numbers out there, you're already seeing what's on the market, right? But you haven't seen their home. So if you throw a number out there that prematurely, you set the expectation that you can get that done, and they may not look like the neighbor's property.
Right.
They may have some other things that will change the value based on that. So that's good.
And I'm glad that you said that, because my next question will be, if you are representing an owner that has over improved their property, now you've gone out to the community, like Rich just said, so what's your advice for that particular seller?
They over improve.
So this will kind of be like a situation where a new construction possibly, they might be the biggest house on the block, or they had all these upgrades put in, you know, and so what they paid for it, the community may not reach that height yet, right? And so now they're trying to sell and they haven't sit on it long enough to get any equity out the house, right? So I would say that to them more so like, hey, you just bought it, right? If it's 2 years in, you may not have accumulated enough equity for you to sell and get a return on anything, because you may break even, or you're gonna be paying out of pocket, right? So I kind of explain that to them. The biggest house on the market, and help them sell or buy. When your clients are buying, you know, you got to take the consideration out to buy taking as well. The wrong business side.
Yeah. I think pretty much covered everything I was gonna say with that, because definitely.
Oh, but we got plenty more. So Ms. Margaret, can you share a memorable experience, some lesson you learned from listening?
That I learned was to communicate. Over communicate. Or if you think you're over communicating, communicate a little bit more. Because they will tell you, your owners or your clients, they will tell you what they need. Sometimes they don't know how to articulate it, but if you just keep asking questions and communicating with them, they'll tell you what they need. Sometimes you can figure out why they're selling, because that could be a pricing strategy in there. Say, hey, we don't have time to sit on it if you know you're about to lose your job or something. Well, we need to sell it quick, so we're not going to be trying to be the highest out here. You're not going to get all the money you think you can make. You think you can get, because we can't wait. So it's like, okay, so we're going to advertise more to some investors that can come in quick and give you a cash offer. So you can gauge what their needs are by just communicating with them. And a quick little tip, just not overtime. But a quick tip I found is just ask them, okay, what are you expecting from me?
Yeah.
And then I can do what they're expecting, and you would usually 9 times out of 10 get it because I've done what you said you needed me to do for you. And you come in, like some people say that I need numbers. You show them all the numbers. I say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead with you. Because I already found out what they wanted, and I just did what they wanted.
Anybody else like to share their numbers?
We just had a situation where, and that's what you said, communication is very, very important, right? And follow-up is very important, and interpretation of what you were saying is very important, okay? All very important. So situation, member, moment, you stage the house, paid to stage the house, right? Took pictures, everything, client there. 3 days later, she moved everything out of the house. Bam. We staged the house for you. We used her stuff though, right? Pick everything, let her know we're staging it. We're gonna get it ready for all these different things. However, after we left, you know, their thought processes get to going, right? So she was like, oh, when I bought my house, it was empty. No, we just staged this entire house hours, right? So communication, over communication, make sure they're not misinterpreting things, just a follow-up, just some of everything, because we staged the house, paid for the stage of the house. This is the number one. She took everything out, and her thing was, well, I thought we just did it for pictures. I thought it was just for pictures. You got our pictures, we got everything. And but she took everything out. And we were like, no, it's an ongoing thing, right? And she was like, well, the house was empty when I purchased it. I just figured it was supposed to be empty when it's now my turn to sell it, right? So that is a really very minimal moment. So don't assume that they know, don't assume that they understand. And if you do come back, right, and say it again, like, hey, I think it was just too much time in between, right? Lesson learned. Next day, you good, you know, or 2 days later, okay, hey, house is still okay, you know, to ensure that she just took it upon herself because whatever her thought was, just to make sure everything stays in line, because that was a money loss.
So wait a minute. So in addition to having that as a strategy, my next question goes to Ms. Collins and Mr. Davis. What strategies have you found most effective for attracting buyers for your listing?
Attracting buyers, I think it kind of rests up into some of what Margaret touched on earlier as far as referring to knowing why your clients are selling and situations like that. And connection to your previous question as well, kind of tying it in there. I have a seller and they have special situations as to why they were selling. So after sitting down, discussing with them and figuring out why they were selling, what their need was, we had to kind of take a different route for how we market their property. Originally, we went in and was like, let's try it off market because they needed a quick sale. They needed someone who would be okay with coming in, doing the repairs and updates because they couldn't afford to do it. And they knew that based on the other properties in that community, their property was not going to sell at the same price as their neighbors and everybody else. So we kind of had to figure out a strategy for marketing with that. We went at that point and reached out to all of my investors that I worked with, that I know, that reached out to me all the time, reached out to them first and kind of did some off-market marketing to them first. And we just kind of tried to showcase the property in a positive light, but in situations like that, it could be one of those things where you could do virtual staging and show, you know, this is the condition the house is in, but this is the potential that it has, and just kind of getting creative with that marketing for how to get that property out and the description of it too.
As far as working with sellers, one of the things that foundationally I try to do from a marketing perspective is to start off at the home and go to neighbors on both sides, left and right. Knock on the door, let them know how you're doing, introduce myself. I'll be selling this home. Is there any friends and or family that has visited your home that you think would really love to stay in the community? Start there. Yes, I always try to start there first, and then of course, I'm sure we all try to utilize MLS and all of the other research tools that we have at our disposal. I try to do a 90-day closing of everybody in the zip code. Like for instance, right now I'm marketing the townhome. So I just been going through the townhome list, zip code, the 3 surrounding zip codes, everything that's closed in the last 90 days, reaching out to those agents. Also, something else that's worked out is you can look at those same houses from the listing agent's perspective. Because I think one of the least utilized aspects of an open house is capturing the information for all the people who may not necessarily be in a position or want to buy your particular home, but you definitely know they're looking in the area. So listing agents sometimes will be a great resource as far as potential buyers. Of course, those buyers agents that have recently closed are a great resource. And then neighbors, especially in a lot of, if you have to sell in gated communities, we all be surprised how many people rent in gated communities and are just looking for that opportunity to transition from the renter to the owner.
Yeah.
So I think if we can just start off in those 3 phases, that'll give you a good foundational start as far as getting the word out about the home yourself.
Do you guys have any other steps you recommend to take to prepare the property for listing?
So,
In addition, piggyback on what Rick said, in addition to what he's doing, anybody else have anything different that they do to get their property ready for listing?
You're ready for listing, I always make sure if you're still occupied to, try to talk to my clients about thinning out their property, thinning out their possessions, making sure they don't have up any like personal family photos, things like that. Anything, that could be political or anything like that. I always walk through the property, kind of point out some stuff and try to give them a perspective from someone on the outside. Because it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. When people live in those properties, they have emotional attachments to stuff. They look at their possessions, it's their possessions. They love it and it looks good to them. It may not look good to someone else coming in. It may completely change how someone else coming in looks at that house. Instead of looking at it and being able to envision their family living in that house, all they look at is the ugly decorations in there or something like that. So those are all things that I go over with my sellers before we start listing. Just make sure, some rules you'll see, like as far as how much furniture is in the room. Don't overcrowd the furniture and then stuff like that, so people can walk in and have space. The rooms look bigger. And then even like Rick mentioned about going and looking at the neighbors. I have a coming soon listing. Their immediate neighbors on their right just listed, and then the neighbors directly across are coming soon as well. So, and there's multiple other properties in that neighborhood. So I told them, let's go look at the other listings. So that way you can see, because they were like, well, they're listing at this price, this, that, and other. Yeah, they are. But let's go check out and see what's the difference between their listing and yours and why. So that, and also it helps too with them being able to see how other homes are staged and get their idea when they walk in. How did you feel when you looked at this house? This house was staged. This house, only had a little bit of furniture. And then think about how can you relate that to your listing?
Yes, and to piggyback off of that, that's excellent. When the sellers and sales get to go in and see and get a feel for the other people's homes, they can say, okay, well, do I feel this way when I walk into my home? What am I smelling?
Yes.
What am I seeing?
Yeah.
Like, do I get a homey feel? Do I feel like it's like a museum and I don't want to touch anything? So how do I feel it if we try to recreate that in their home?
Yeah, so as a listing, so I think like that, because as a listing agent, you want to go in before you host anything, before you have anything. I always go in maybe the day before or so to take a look at it, because what you did at the beginning, if it's been a little while, if they're living in the property, they're living in the property, right? So everything you did at the beginning to get your pictures and stuff, it's not going to look like that when that open house comes or when that next person comes and schedule their visit, right? So you want to just do your check-ins at the property and let them know, hey, we have some showings coming up and things of that nature, so they can have time to prepare to put that property back as closely as possible to make it presentable. Right.
But I tell my clients is that they have to move themselves out of the home so that other people can envision themselves in your home. Very important. So my next question is, if the home have any specific features or aspect of the property that tend to attract buyers as listing agents, what would you do to put that to the forefront?
your wording, your descriptions. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Your
that's just-
You
descriptions?
can.
Yeah,
I wanna know
make
what
sure-
you guys can
Make
do.
sure
I
that
don't think
you're
it's the
great
first
focal,
picture.
pictures when you on your listing and stuff, like that should be one of the first photos on there, or close to the first.
So if it's
So
lakefront,
kinda
what you gonna do, Rick?
That lake.
And
Like,
I definitely
about
need
to
to talk
say that
about
later.
that. Lifestyle is really the key. What I try to do for my clients is illustrate value. For me, a lot of times with a lot of my buyers, when you illustrate the value in certain aspects of a property, it gives you the best opportunity to help them see themselves living there. A lot of times, if you don't illustrate the value of some of these items, I look for some of the things that are a little less underrepresented. I like to check where the breaker boxes are. Seems pretty basic, but if you are in a property where the breaker box is interior, you can always make sure you illustrate the value of having an interior breaker box. When would you use your breaker box, or when would you have to access it? Either when the power's out or when the weather's bad. Either way, I'd rather be indoors than outdoors.
Right.
And I just think a lot of times when we tour these homes, as professionals, we'll see these things. We will tangibly notice it, but it'll be in the back of our minds as opposed to making it a real spotlight part of the tour. Because just about everything else that buyers see, they can make their own decisions on if they like it or not. It's not really a real, we have to convince them thing. But I do think sometimes like where breaker boxes are, if there's a networking panel or not, where the emergency water shutoff valves are. These are all the things that nobody in the world cares about until they need to know where it is.
Right.
And then once anxiety kick in, your memory starts to fail you, you don't really know where everything is and now you're running around without really knowing exactly what you're doing. So I try to spotlight those things. A lot of the more obvious visual improvements, I tend to let that be something that they can yay or nay on. Because I've been shocked, some of the things that I think look really, really nice. Sometimes people are kind of like middling on, and then other things that I totally disregard is the best thing they've ever seen it before. So from that standpoint, that's just what I try to keep in mind as far as illustrating that for the clients.
So Ms. Collins mentioned that on her coming soon listing, there's another coming soon, and there's actually one on the market. So with that being said, how do you typically approach pricing strategies for your listing?
So, with this coming soon listing, the pricing strategy for it, how we're going about it, it still needs a little work on it. The other properties around it don't. My clients also are very flexible, they're a little flexible with what they're selling for us for their reasons and all of that. And that's gonna be noted in the listing as well. So then that's another way we're going about marketing. This property is like, hey, sure enough, yeah, you can go get the other house over there. It's moving ready. But you can get a competitive price where you just put a little bit of elbow grease in it, and you have one of the biggest houses in the neighborhood. And you have so much potential to what you can do with it. So.
I would think in the best scenario, you want to be the lowest, so yours can move the quickest. So if you have some like the coming soons and you know what those prices are, say, hey, we got the better price over here.
And in our situation, and that is what we're in our situation. Ours is going to be the better price. It is the larger home, but my clients are still, they're gonna be okay.
So you guys know me, you know I gotta play a little bit of devil's advocate, right? So if your client is adamant that they should get $500,000 for their home, or the one next door is $290,000, Ms. Davis, what advice do you have?
So
And do you choose the price, or do you let your client choose
No.
their price?
I'm going to educate them. Okay, I'm going to educate them. By the time you finish educating your client, they should be coming around to what the market value is for their home. Now, if it's just that hard-headed client, gonna meet in the middle somewhere, right? Hey, we can try your first 2 weeks, because the market's gonna tell you, if you don't get no listings, if we don't get no calls, something's not right, right? Because if it's priced right and if it's set up right, people are going to come, right? So it's okay to meet your sellers somewhere, right? But the more you educate them and see how it could backfire, right? And you have your listing on here a little bit longer than what it should be, because you want what you want, then you're gonna be more stressful in the situation and the process, right? So my job is to alleviate as much stress as I can for you, right? To keep you updated on what's coming in, right? The activity, because others want to know your activity that's coming in, how many calls may have come in, how many interests may have come in. And if you let them know that and you update them on that information, eventually they're gonna be like, okay, Ms. Davis, let's go ahead and do this, right? And I always ask them, how do you feel about this week? How do you feel about last week? You know, if that's the case. And 9 times out of 10, they're gonna come around to you, because especially if they want the house sold.
Something that, that's outstanding advice. Something that I think works out pretty well, especially during this time of year, is that most homeowners are receiving their county tax assessments right about now. And what that does is gives them an idea of what Harris County, Brazoria County, Wallen County, or whatever county the home resides in. That's how much the county is taxing you on and what they value your property at. Now, that's not the be all the end all, because a lot of times those county assessments are a little bit lower than what you can get in the open market. But it does set a good baseline. The great thing about dealing with sellers is that the conversations are a lot more dollars and cents oriented, which is right up my alley. A lot of times with buyers, you're thinking more along the nebulous of wants, needs, likes. But with sellers, it's always the dollars and cents. So what I try to do, and I advise the people that I work with to approach it from this standpoint, is take how much, let's say Harris County is valuing your property. Let's pull comps. Let's look and see what everything in your area is selling at. Let's see what everything in your area is closed at. We can look at the price per square foot of closing versus the price per square foot of what the county say we're at. And if necessary for those tough clients, you can also illustrate what a potential loan would look like for somebody who want to buy your house. So if somebody wanted to buy your house who was FHA qualified, this is what it would look like. If somebody was conventionally qualified, this is what it would look like. And if somebody was VA qualified. And I think for most sellers, when you provide them with those facts, figures, then they will allow us to lead them towards a listing price, as opposed to believing that we're pulling a number out of thin air without taking into account how much money they want to make.
Yes.
Because I think for them, a little bit of the, not necessarily distrust, but I want to make my own decision comes from the fact that nobody cares about my money more than me. So what I try to do is put the foot forward to let them know is that I care about our money and I care about our goals and the things that we want to get done. And I think if you can give them, this is what the county say we should sell for, this is what other people are selling for, this is what other people made money at, do a price per square foot. And I think once you give them your recommendation, I think that recommendation seems to be a bit more educated and you're a lot more likely to get a yes and not as much pushback.
That's great, because that goes all into the education part. So everything he just itemized is the educating your sellers on everything. That is very good. That was a good breakdown of how to educate the client. And then you educate yourself. Right? So you came in with factual data.
So with that being said, we're gonna switch over to the
I wanted to add on, you said you wanted to play devil advocate. So let me tell you about one of those devil's advocate experiences that I had with a listing. She said 9 times out of 10, they're gonna look at the numbers, they'll look at those comps and all that. Well, I had that 1 time out of 10 where they So true story about this listing. It was someone who wanted to get into investing. So during COVID, they bought one of those properties, they overpaid for it, it was an investment property. They went in and started doing repairs on it. They ran out of money for whatever reason during this listing process, and so they stopped all work and wanted to list this property back for sale. So now they bought it in 2020. This is 2021. Now they want to sell it, and the house has at this point been completely gutted, and they went in to start doing this remodeling on it, right? So the property is being sold as is, where it is. I ran the comps on them, but at that time, the comps did not support what they were wanting to sell it for. They wanted to sell the home gutted at the price that the homes around it, completely remodeled, was selling it. They refused. They understood the home was not repaired, and they said, well, we've already added another bathroom and put another bedroom on their house. but it's not complete. It was framed out, but that was it. And I was like, you have, you know, show them the comparables all around them, but they're complete. House set on the market 3 months, they refused to budge. I told them, I said, we'll do, you know, do the first 2 weeks and see how it goes at this price, and then we'll adjust from there. I showed them every week. We were not getting calls, and the calls we start getting, you know, the investor offers that we were getting. About you listed or you had a listing, you know, those investor offers $100,000, you know, pennies they throwing at them and like, oh, that you know, see what happens. So we got a lot of those offers, and they didn't even want to entertain it because they refused to budge on this price. So then after that 2 weeks point, they're like, hey, what's going on? You know, what's any updates? We get anything? I'm sending them, you know, all of the offers as I get them, and just letting them know, hey, like, this is what we're getting. And because that's where we're at, honestly, with the point. So I even had some people who called me and they laughed at the listed price. They laughed. They was like, wait, is the house complete? No, it's not. They laughed. They was like, is that for real? Like, that's the price. But yeah, so that was that 1 time out of 10 where they were not willing to look at the, not willing to go buy the comps. The house sat on the market for 3 months before they said, forget it, we'll just let it sit there and we'll figure out something later. Because in those 3 months, we received multiple offers, but none of them that they were willing to budge and take.
So they withdrew it.
Yes, so 3 months later, it was withdrawn, and yeah, that was
Is
it.
it still?
I have no idea. I
That's not my
checked
problem.
every now and then if they did sell it, they sold it off market. They did not, which I did look and I saw they had previously tried to sell it off market themselves before. So, or I already came in the picture, but they didn't have any luck still.
So with all of that being said, right, as professional listing realtors right now, and the newcomers coming on, how do you establish trust and rapport with your seller?
Just communicating with them very well, being knowledgeable about what you're talking about, and having the numbers and documentation to back up whatever you're talking about, whatever you tell them.
Leading with an open hand, offering resources to help them before you ask for anything. Say, what can I do to help you? Is there anything that you may need? Do you need help with an inspection? You need a roofer? I got a roofer for you. You said something was going on with your lights. You want me to send over an electrician? Stuff like that doesn't cost us anything. Right. But we're just leaving with an open hand. So that will help build rapport and build trust. And then just ask a lot of questions.
Always been a source of referrals.
Yeah, I piggyback. That's really it. When you first go in, your presentation. So when you first go into their home, your first impression is everything, right? And that's where you lay your groundwork when you do your listing presentation. You go into that home, right? And you want to be mindful of your verbiage and how you address certain things in someone's home, right? Because at the end of the day, regardless if you like it or not, it's their home, it's their piece, right? So, and sometimes you don't even know you are. You just have to really choose your words when you're describing and you're descripting and when they're walking you around that home. You know, try to point out something that's really nice. Try to point out, oh, this is something that kind of, you know, oh, you did this. If there's an army, you know, who was in the army, who was this, you know, to get that conversation going about their family and learning more about the family. And that helps create that trust initially, right? And then it shows them that you're more interested in them opposed to just the sale. That's the biggest piece to gaining the trust in this business, just all the way around. People want to know you care about them, right? And so once you do that part, everything else will come indirectly behind it. But that initial presentation, sometimes you only get one chance and you go in, like you said, ready to give resources, ready to build the rapport, finding something you like, finding something you can talk about, and to get them talking.
No, I mean, I agree with everyone. One of the great things about some of the trainings we do here a lot, and it's something that Coach Mike talks about, is how as individuals, we should leverage the power of the group. And I think that's something that when we're out in real time, we all will admit we're guilty of not doing that enough. I try not to use I in listing presentations and say we. I try to talk about our organization as opposed to myself, because I think for a lot of sellers, their number one fear is that an agent is gonna list their home and just let it sit on the internet and wait for the internet to sell the house. I talk about the strength of the teams at Brooks and Davis. I talk about how we're able to mobilize, how we're able to have a consistent marketing message that we're able to put out in real time to illustrate the value of your property. So for especially the office members and the agents that are members here at Brooks and Davis, I would urge them to leverage the strength of the group when you're illustrating your listing value. Because like for instance, different title companies that we have partnerships with, they offer different services if you employ them as your closing company. So I would make sure that I talk about all those services that the different title companies that we work with offer. And if any of those services is what you feel like wins you the listing, then that automatically lets you know who you should employ to do the title and closing services. So just try to leverage the strength of the group. And I think you'll start to see that people are a lot more open to what it is that we will quote unquote sell it.
Okay. I have another good one for you. Let's switch it a little bit and talk about listing agreements. How important are they? And with you teaching a new realtor how to negotiate commissions. Oh, how important is it?
Like a major top important thing to have.
How are you gonna teach them how to negotiate their commissions going forward?
How to negotiate their commissions, explain.
That's the new word that's been thrown around in the rulings, negotiating your commission. So I want this experienced panel to talk about listing agreements, because a lot of the new agents don't even know what they are, what they entail, and of course, the commission part on there. And how you're gonna have this talk with your sellers about your commission.
And when we go to, okay, that's the last thing.
Okay.
About time you educate, about time you walk through, about time you build that rapport. The listing agreement is the last, it's the icing, it's the last thing that you do, right? By the time they've seen the value of you, by the time you laid out the expertise, the team, all the different resources and things like that you can put their property in the best, I'm saying property, but it's them as well, in the best position to be successful. The listing agreement, if you explain it into its entirety and you understand it, you're gonna get the signing on. One, because you already created the value. You did everything before you got here. And so once you start going through the listing agreement and them understanding the number now, right? You created so much value and trust that they're going to then see, okay, everything they gave to me up front, oh man, I see how this plays a part, right? And then by that time, you should not have an issue with your listing agreement.
Okay.
And we could say it's a part of the marketing strategy. We're gonna offer that buyer's agent 3%. They're gonna say, wow, I want to go see that house.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make sure we take care of that buyer's agent. This is gonna be an incentive for them to see your house. So of course you're gonna pay us our 3%, but we're gonna wrap it all in there at 6%. We're gonna incentivize the buyer's agent to see your house. Now, if a house doesn't have that, yours would be a beacon and shining star that buyers agent would say, hey, these people care about marketing their homes. So the more they care about their homes, they're gonna care about negotiating with you.
I said feel differently.
Yeah,
But go ahead, I'll let everybody else say.
And I was, as far as you said about the new agents coming in, how to explain it to them, I mean, to me, I feel like everyone should read what the listing agreement is. Because how can you explain it to your client if you don't know what it is? So you need to read it before you go and start doing a listing. Go through there, make sure you understand what that listing agreement is, and so that way you know how to explain it to your client when you get there to accomplish with it. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, then it's kind of hard when your client asks you, your potential seller ask you, well, right here on the commission, why do I need to pay this, or why is it this amount, or something like that, and they're asking you questions that you can't answer them because you don't even understand the listing agreement. So,
Can I ask a question?
Okay. Is it safe to say that no one in here has ever negotiated their commission below 3%. So do y'all do that all the time?
In Louisiana,
No, I mean here in Texas. do
it's
y'all-
happening.
No, I'm sorry, I'm
Listen.
sorry, I worded it wrong. Is it safe to say that everybody in here doesn't negotiate their commission under 3%? Does anyone in here negotiate?
So we're talking seller listings, right? So
Right.
when you, as a listing agent, you have up to 6, you can negotiate, it's negotiation for a
Right.
reason, right? And so that doesn't necessarily put nothing on it, right? It's the value you present.
Right.
And people just say normally 6%, right? That's the, you know, that's what goes
Yeah.
around, right? For the listing agreement, but everything is negotiable.
Right, exactly.
Right? And so that's why you have to create that value piece. And however you do that, that's what if the house is selling for a smaller number and you're running numbers for your client and you factor in before you get there, you factor in what your 6% may look like for them. Well, they may not be able to hold that 6%, right? And so you may have to say, okay, we may have to do some other things to get you paid, right? And you can present that to them and say, we can go this route, creative things to try to get it, but you should be knowing a little bit before you're going in when it comes to negotiating your commission with that seller. But there is no cap more so, and there is no minimum per seller. When it comes to sharing your commission with someone, you know, the buyer's agent, you know, I let them know that, hey, they're my 6% or whatever, my 5% or my whatever percentage is, I am, you know, incentivizing my colleagues and things of that nature to bring buyers as well as my efforts.
Right.
It's an addition to my efforts, not the efforts.
I have a question. So you say, oh, first of all, where is the money coming from for both parties to get paid? Number one, where is 6% coming from? And when you said hold, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. When you say hold the money, or however you just said it, I should have interrupted.
No, you said it different. Money, all monies come from the sale of a property. So the seller, in most cases, are the ones that's paying the commission for the seller's agent as well as the buyer's agent.
So,
It
no,
comes out
she
of
gotta
their-
explain that a
Yeah,
little
we gotta
bit.
explain
Hold
it.
on, hold on.
Take that out. Take that off.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead, Renee.
it's gotta be explained more detailed than that. It's not saying that the seller is paying, because the seller is paying the listing, the listing brokerage. The
Right.
listing brokerage is offering that 3% to a buyer's agent.
There you
So
go.
you gotta explain a little bit more, so it's a little more understanding, because that's where sometimes people get confused and they think the seller is paying the buyer's agent.
But it
The
comes
seller
to-
pays the listing brokerage.
Yeah,
Listing brokerage offers that commission to a procuring agent.
but I was just giving you the bottom line of making you think differently. Okay.
Go ahead, Mr.
No, this is a really cool conversation. I thank Jackie for organizing this. I thank everybody for sitting down, seriously, because this is a good thing, because this is the part of the presentation that I am most passionate about. I've given this a lot of thought. I've talked to agents from California, I've talked to agents in Maryland, DC, Georgia, Dallas. And one of the things that I have decided to implement into my real estate practice is I'm not negotiating listing fees. I think it's important for everyone to, before you have your listing agreement, to reach out to your closer of record or the title company that you prefer. And everyone should go through an exercise where they mock buy the house that they're thinking about selling. I think a lot of times sellers never envision what it's like to be the person buying their house.
Right.
People can be so money motivated that sometimes chasing the green can cloud their reasonable judgment.
Yeah.
I think most home owners and home sellers aren't selfish people. I don't think they're here to gouge the buying community. I think they're just ignorant to how their decisions affect those in the buying public.
Yeah.
So we all know, and we all like $400, $500, $600, $700,000 residential listing. But 9 times out of 10, those type of listings come with either an HOA, a master plan, MUDs, SIDS, LIDs, or a bunch of fees and transfer fees that the buyer cannot legally pay. I've learned through experience in getting my hand burned on the stove that no sellers like to give out more money at closing than you talked about 4 months ago
Right,
when
exactly.
you won the list.
Exactly.
So let's just talk about traditional. Traditionally, there has been a 6% listing commission paid to the listing agent. We all know that there have been scenarios where that 6% did not cover everything.
Right.
And we've had to go back, hat in hand, panhandling, asking for an extra $1,500, $1,750, $2,000. It affects the seller's feeling as far as the customer service they receive from us. They feel like they've been bait and switched. And it's hard to illustrate how this is out of everyone's hands and legally they have to pay this money. Now, all of us here that are experienced will say, well, okay, Rick, what are we supposed to do? Ask for 8% at listing? Because we'll never get a listing agreement that way. That's why you have to already have bought the house. If there is an extra 2% because they live in, let's say, Marvita or Sienna, something that has HOA transfer fees, those type of things, you have to talk to them and illustrate for them exactly what that 2% goes towards.
Education.
That's the key. But I think a lot of times, I was guilty of this until I got my hand burned on the stove. I never bought the houses I was selling. If you go to your title company and ask, if I was buying this house FHA, what would be the transfer fees, what kind of fees, and what would we be looking at as far as closing costs? With a zip code and an address, a title company can tell you what those would be. That way, when you go in, you're not just asking for money. I think a lot of times sellers feel like listing commissions is just an arbitrary number that we feel entitled to. And you know, everybody pocket watches. And they want to make for sure that we're not gaining more in value than they're gaining in value. So I would advise everyone to go through that scenario, see what it would be like if you were buying a house, illustrate for the seller, these are the fees that you must pay to them, regardless of who buys the property. That has to be on and above our quote unquote listing commission, because those fees don't go to either buyer's agent or seller's agent. These are legally the things we have to do for this property to transact.
So you're saying that when you do the seller net sheet,
Yeah.
that
that's what I was saying.
You have to
itemize
have
in
that
there.
on there.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good.
Cause I
Yeah.
was about to say, cause I was like, maybe it might, the way you said it might have been a little confusing, cause it almost sounded like you were saying that an agent's commission could fluctuate or change during the closing. And I was like, no, whatever, our commission.
No, I'm
is
just saying
not
with the
gonna-
seller's fees.
I know,
Their
but
fees,
I was just the
yeah.
way you said it about the fees and $1,500 changing, yeah, and closing costs, but I was like, maybe. it was
No,
just
but
the way
that was
you
it.
said it.
I
Well,
never knew
that's
that.
why
That's a
you
lot.
guys are the top producers, because all of our minds are up there. So with that being said, I'm gonna switch it back a little bit, back to where we are today. So what marketing techniques have you found to be successful when you do listings?
Oh, okay, they all kind of have their own improvements, of course, right? So of course, social media is the thing going around now, the top thing, right? But when you're having listing, like you said, your neighbors, door knocking is a marketing thing. You meet the neighbors, everybody knows somebody there that want to be in the neighborhood. That is, I know we don't like it, but door knocking is very, very, very beneficial when it comes to getting exposure to your property, right? Your sign out, like if there was a property that didn't have a sign out, you know, and we end up doing an open house for it, right? The neighborhood didn't even know the house was for sale, right? Because that agent didn't have a sign out, right? So let's make them aware, you know, now the door knocker now you have leads as well on top of that, right? So not, like he said, it might be not this property, but the next property is something else that you can guide up to. There's other things, Facebook, I think I use Facebook Marketplace for land. You know, a great person told me about that I never knew about. And I put it on there and got a lot of, you just be surprised, a lot of hits and stuff that come back on the Facebook Marketplace. I thought it was just like material things. I never knew it was for, you know, real estate. You know, so that was a good insight that was given to me. So, and I'll let them tell about the other ones.
I definitely agree with social media right now. I mean, people are very visual and they want to be able to see if, so you have to make sure you have great photos, clear, nice photos, good angles. And then curb appeal, even though it's not so much on technology, so, but people just driving by, having that sign in the yard, and then at curb appeal where your sign is sitting at, like the sellers need to always be mindful. Yard needs to be mowed, like put a few flowers out there if you can, put a little color in spring, going into summer, all of that. Like if you can do those things, that's great because it makes a difference. And even just someone driving by, they see the house, the curb appeal looks great, they see the sign in the yard. They don't know, they might not know at the time what the inside looks like, but their interest is piqued. And so now they're curious about it and potentially to make the, you know, schedule that showing. But social media, the videos and pictures, things like that, just keeping the property at, you know, the top of mind. Social media gives you such a bigger reach, even than just being on the MLS, because you got so many people who might not even have thought to go on HAR or Zillow or somewhere like that. They're just, you know, they're scrolling. Every social media minded, like you see people now, they go on social media and Google stuff. Like instead of going to Google, they go and search it on social media. They go buy stuff and shop on social media now. So like, to me, I think that's like a really big reach and help us with marketing.
Yeah.
One other thing
Okay, getting the sellers involved, say, hey, let's go through your phone and look and see, hey, tell them, hey, I'm selling my home at so-and-so, so-and-so. You know, anybody wants to, you know, live in the neighborhood with us? They have a lot of resources themselves, so get them involved. Sometimes I know sometimes I run across a lot of my clients, they want to be doing stuff, like, hey, yeah, we can do it. Let's go through your phone. Let's go through your phone. You don't help me. Yeah, let's go through your phone and let's formulate a text message for you to send out to all your family and friends, letting them know about your property. So that's a good way to get them involved so they can have a hand. Some people just busybodies. Then you can be involved. Go through your phone and send these text messages out. And it's a good way for their family and friends to see and to help them because people want to help you. So I found that was a good strategy.
Are you passionate about listening? Margaret, because this is the most I ever heard you talk. Okay. Go ahead, bring up one.
Me, I try to boil it down to what motivates most people. So I am a proud proponent of paying off everybody. I pay referral fees, I pay BTSAs. I operate just like a developer would operate. When I knock on the doors, I got my little referral QR code card. Let them know, pay $500 for any referral. That's just to the neighbors. To anybody in the room that's an agent, if you ever see me with a listing and you taking somebody over there, call me, because if it's somebody that way that we need to make it happen, I'm putting $1,000 BTSAs. Because at the end of the day, every seller that I've ever worked with will pay an extra $1,000 to get their price. To me, it's that simple. And after the first, to your point, Ms. Collins, after the first 10 days, then our referrals is going up from 500 to 1,000. Whatever it takes for somebody to get on their phone and say, you know what, come check out this house next door tomorrow. Because once again, I will give the next door neighbor $1,500 if they give me somebody who's gonna pay the full freight. So I think from that standpoint, as agents, I don't think we look at it from a Robin Hood theory standpoint enough. I think if you sprinkle enough money in the streets, referrals come back. That's just how that works. Because anybody who's ever given me a referral, I always try to make sure I give them their money in cash, and I always try to make sure it's a surprise. Because people remember the people who give them money in their hand. It's simple as that. So we can spend money on Google ads, and we can spend money on IG reels and IG promo. But if you take $500 and promise everybody on the block for 8 houses, I'm paying whoever brings somebody over here, you'll see that there'll be a little bit more movement. And then I think as agents, especially considering how things are, I don't see a real issue with offering BTSAs. I feel like that's really the way that, especially in our chosen field, that's the way to keep everybody in the game. So,
I agree.
so that's,
Yeah, I've seen
I've seen that, that's really good.
yeah, that's the only way to keep everybody going.
Also, like you talked about the neighbors, I use the neighborhood,
Next
The
door.
next door neighborhood, you can, showcase the property in the next door neighborhood. Especially on next door app, there you go. I would use that as well, especially when you're doing open houses. Great way to assemble information to the different subdivisions that's around. I think we touched on pretty much everything. I feel like we're missing like 2 things that you can actually really do.
But that's okay,
Yeah,
let me
we
help
do.
you out, 'cause I have 2 more questions.
All right,
There you go.
that's what's
So
up.
I'm gonna prompt your thought pattern in a second. So you ready? Okay. Do you have any tips for creating compelling listing descriptions and photography for your listings? I know we all talked about that great
Angles
description.
matter.
Yes.
I say angles matter. I would say angles matter.
Lighting.
Uniqueness,
Lighting,
lighting, lighting. When you go through, turn all the lights on, open up all the windows, the blinds, open up everything. Toilet seat down when you take your pictures.
The lighting brightness. Cause some people use those yellow dim lighting and you walk in the room and it feels so dim instead of looking bright. And that makes such a huge difference.
Remember
Yeah,
your
photos too. Yellow looking.
Bring light bulbs with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, do a lot of things.
The photographers usually.
So the whole purpose of your photos and or things that you're doing is to draw the attention here, right? So you want to be mindful that when you are doing your photos, professional photos, is that the whole purpose of it is to draw the people to the house, to get them to come out, right? So you want to put the best perfections and the best attributes of the house out there on your photos. Once they get there, they'll see the other things that's not quite so nice, right? But you want to put your best, the best attributes out there for the house when you're doing your photos.
And then with that too.
You lost?
Yeah, I lost.
Okay.
And we just talked about listing photos.
Mhm.
Once again, I try to take the guesswork out. A company that I found works well that I've utilized is a company by the name of Snap House. I want to say, didn't we Snap House do a presentation for us here at the brokerage before last year? For those nerds like us, Laverne, who check out everybody who come through here, Snap House I've utilized. If we haven't used Snap House, check them out. They have a package where they can do listing photos for as affordably as $99. The package that I prefer, I want to say, is $199. It does virtual staging, photos, videos, that type of thing. And I think especially for our listings that are below 400,000, I think it adds a really great pop because sometimes, especially with those listings, sometimes the agents don't necessarily put as much into the photos. Everything above 400,000, I think it's a mandate.
Yes.
And if you haven't checked out Snap House, I would urge everyone to go to their website. I want to say they can be out in as early as 48 hours after you order. So if you're in a time crunch, you can still utilize their services.
Did that,
I
yeah,
was
some
like-
videos.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
in the area.
on the photos, we like to have good professional photos for our listings, but I think something that people also should be mindful of is not to over edit the photos. Like we want to show the best features of the house, but the worst thing is working with buyers, and I say my buyers, to get there to a house that doesn't even look like the pictures. I mean, I have showed we went and we rode up and down the street. the outside of the
You
house
catfish
catfish
the
us. We rode up and down the street looking for a house because we were looking like, well, this say the address, but this not the house. And then it turned out to be the house, show the same house over there. That turned out not to be the house, so we pull up, my client shows me, they say, this is not the house that we looked at, and I'm like, I said, well, this shows it, so they pull it up and they show me the listing. And we look at the listing photo of just the outside of the house, the outside, I mean, they had landscaped the yard. They removed the tree and everything else in the photos for the listing. That when we got there so much that we didn't even recognize the property. And so, I mean, like,
about that.
so it is, my client didn't apply for it.
You don't even go in.
But yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. You don't wanna disappoint somebody because when you think like, yeah, you want it to look good, you wanna draw them in, but you don't wanna have fake information on there. When they get to the house that they don't even like it now because it's a disappointment. It's such a disappointment from what it actually is. So I think just being mindful of that.
Okay, so for my panel of top producers right now, I'm gonna ask each and every one of you to take a deep breath. I have 4 last questions for you. 4, and they are really, really good questions, okay? So the first one is, as top producers, what resources or professional development opportunities do you recommend for new agents to further their knowledge and skills in listing properties?
Well, first of all, go in-house. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Well, there's videos, you know, it started off with the seminar training photo, but it's now called the Real Estate Success Machine. Serum. There's tons of videos that he has taken the time to upload and type out and transcript and all those things like that, that if you take the time to go and watch the videos and read.
Keyword, like on that board over there, read.
Well, when I first started, he would literally be like, okay, did you go to the photo first? Before you come and ask anything, did you go do what you could do first? And then if you have an understanding, then you come back and you ask me. So for the starting agents, the resources and things to get started with is at your fingertips now. Right? You just gotta access them, go in and log in and take the time to learn your craft. Right? We're so ready to jump into the transaction part of it, but you gotta take the time to shop in your store. You gotta take the time to educate yourself so that you can be the educator.
There you go, very good advice.
I would say if you're a new agent, get with the more experienced agent. I know sometimes I can feel like I sure wish I had about 3 more of me right now. If another if one of the newer agents will say, hey, tell me what to do, I'll do it for you. Girl, yes. Yes, let's do this. So if you could shadow another more experienced agent and just do what they do, and then when they're doing a contract, sit there right by them and say, hey, let's do this, or tell me what to fill in, and just have them do it themselves and just say, okay, I need line 1 to say this, line 2 to say that, so they could get used to like really doing the contract themselves. Come with me, showing the point.
And HAR, I know when I first started, I would really sign up for a lot of classes through the Houston Association of Realtors. Like they offer classes, and as a new agent, go sign yourself up. I learned a lot of information and how to even navigate the MLS and how to do those different things. You know, if your schedule don't permit, you can still have another avenue when it does to sign yourself up for trainings. Okay.
Once again, I apologize to everybody checking it out because I know sometimes some of the things I've been sharing can be a little different than what people were expecting, but I'm left-handed, I'm a weirdo, so please humor me. But I always think about when I was newly licensed. And the most important thing was having conversations. Me and Coach Mike talk about this a lot on Monday Night Live. He talks about it a lot in his training, is having real estate conversations. So I would urge all new agents to get their elevator pitch together.
There you go.
Take classes, trainings, read a book, but you need to have 30 seconds that you can sell yourself confidently in any situation, regardless of who you're talking to. Sounds simple until you actually got to put it in practice. I think a lot of agents, and everyone in this room included, will confess if you put us all on lie detector, that we done let some money slip through our fingertips by not having our mouthpiece together at the right time. I think that the new age is having that elevator pitch, 15 seconds if you in the elevator, 30 seconds if you at a bar. I think having something that you can go to consistently, not that you have to have it memorized, but something that you commit to memory, that you feel comfortable having real estate conversations with anyone, anywhere, at any time. Because as we all know, anyone with a pulse can benefit from our services. It's about opening up the line of communication and them trusting us enough to be candid about what it is they need and what it is they want. Because either they're getting closer to their first million or they want to get closer to their next million. Either way, if you're confident in what it is that you bring to the table, I think we should be able to illustrate that for people. And the more you practice it, the better you get.
That is key word right there. So with practicing, let me get on, we got a minute to go. How do you stay updated on market trends and changes in the real estate industry?
Well, I know HAR sends out those emails, sends out the emails all the time for your listings for sale, as well as the rental market. They send those out monthly. I read those. I keep track of all whatever real estate news. They also have a lot of different podcasts and news articles, just stuff like that. I always try to make sure that I'm reading it. I want to know whatever is out there, what's going on, what's in the news, so I can stay informed. Whatever changes are being made, if Trek sends out some kind of notice about a change in paperwork, documents, and rules, I try to stay on top of all of that. I just read the information that's provided to us.
My last question pertains to that right there, Ms. Collins. Anybody else?
Well, I'm a Twitter person, so I'll follow HAR, NAR, or Emin on Twitter, and they always have a lot of, nice little things. And then you can also see the discourse from what other people are saying about it. And then I can sometimes look and say, okay, yes, I know that agent don't live in Texas because they talking greasy. So so you can really get what is out there on social media, following the associations, Twitter feeds and things like that.
I would just add to it to say be in the room, be present. Like he talked about your title companies, your lawyers, when they're having events and they're doing different things and they're doing presentations, because they're doing what we're doing as well, getting the people out and sharing what information they have. So being present in the room when different things are happening around you, not just here, but just in the world, Eventbrite, go on there and see who's holding some events and things like that, because information can be assembled through other professions, there you go, right, that tie into us. So being present, being in the room with those conversations and those presentations is another thing.
When everyone who is a member of HAR, one of the benefits of membership is that you are automatically subscribed to the Texas Realtor magazine. Not all of us check our mailbox enough to actually get our magazine.
20 of them, I keep them.
The cool thing is that they do provide that same magazine online. And you can see not only the current publication, but you can see all the past publications. So from that standpoint, that'll always keep you up to date as far as the latest and greatest, as far as headlines, those that are movers and shakers and what's going on from a legal perspective. Also, it's a great opportunity to get social media content. If you're looking for some ideas on how to interact, or if you're one of those agents who have made the commitment to put out something daily, this is where you can get your daily content from without feeling like you're rehashing and recycling the same few things over and over. So I'm real big on taking advantage of the things I'm already paying for, because I think a lot of times we pay for things as professionals because either they're mandated or we're told to do that for networking purposes. But unless you're passionate about it, you won't dive into it. So if you haven't been taking advantage of the Texas Realtor, I advise everybody to do so, because you're probably already paying for it.
Breath. Can you guys share any habits or routines that have contributed to your success as a top producer in real estate? Ms. Davis. Other and that wonderful smile.
It first started off with follow-up. I think once I've learned that when you get a lead, the number of seconds you have, the number of minutes you have to call a person back or to get them on the line, it truly makes a difference, right? So follow up, you get a lead, follow up immediately, right? If they don't answer the phone again, first time, follow again in 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Just don't let so much time go by from your initial lead alert, whatever that may be. You know, you get a lead or whatever referral before you make contact. One thing I also can say is that your pipeline is very important. I never turned anybody away. Even if you're not ready right now, my time is not wasted if I keep you ready. Right. As long as I close, as long as we get you successful, then the time is not wasted. So, and I care about people. I care about families. You know, that's just my passion from the beginning as a social worker. So that's just my background. But once you learn how to care, once you learn how to be a servant, that's been my story. And it's been ongoing since then. So.
I think what I can contribute to that is simply just, I mean, it goes back to, I think my greatest contribution that I've had to real estate outreach, they're gonna say it's my husband. He has been my in-house mentor because he has far more experience with business than me. He's taught me a lot. So he's been my in-house mentor, but what he's taught me out of it is that real estate, we're all agents and we have to treat it like a business, be mindful that I try to set hours, I try to have good communication, I try to be consistent about whatever I'm doing. So I do have schedules and routines for stuff. As far as how I go about my day, I keep a desk calendar on my desk, my weekly calendar, and it's open. Everything that I need to do is on my notes, all of this stuff. If I need to call a client, show houses, whatever, it's all on my desk calendar. And I know everybody like to keep digital. I keep stuff on there, but it's not the same as writing it down. So I have 5 of them because for the last 5 years, I have had a desk calendar. It's time for me to get a new one now, as a matter of fact. But I keep everything on there. I try to make sure, like when I get up, I start my day, I take the moment to, to myself before I start answering my emails, my phone calls, all that stuff like that. Take a moment to myself for personal time. And then, I have a to-do list for that day. I would go through and say, okay, everything I need to do for today that I need to get accomplished today, and time block, do whatever needs to be done. So that way I know that, all right, I'm going to take this time to respond to all my calls, my emails, all this stuff like that, showings over here, text messages, social media posts. I try to, all that squeeze in a day, and just being consistent about it. So this is the key.
Well, for me, what I think contributes to my success and a habit that I have developed was to invest in myself on a professional level.
Yes.
So invest in yourself. I have committed myself to personal development. So a shameless plug for Toastmasters. It's a communicating and leadership club. So there we do practice elevator pitches. There I can give a presentation on listings in front of them. I can give them a buyer's presentation. The group gives me feedback. I can test different strategies out on them. They can say, oh, Margaret, no, we did not understand that. Or we need you to break this down into bullet points. I'm like, okay, that is something that I can do in front of them. So invest in yourself on a professional level. Sometimes there's a cost to it, but a lot of times, like with Toastmasters, it's $60 every 6 months. You could develop an elevator pitch. The people can give you ideas of like, hey, and you can cut all of that out. I just need to know about this one. So you get a lot of feedback. So develop yourself professionally. And that's something that I feel that helps me to be successful.
Very good.
Not one of the things, I think the thing that's helped me the most is being consistent and intentional with the messages that I'm putting out there in social media. I think sometimes as agents, we know, and we all do it, We get introduced to someone from a professional standpoint, the first thing we do is pull out our phone and Google their name. We check out their website, we check out their social media presence, we check to see what kind of things they're putting out there. And we all know, anytime our name is mentioned, a referral, or we're introduced to someone, the first thing they're gonna do is take your first and your last name and put it in the Google. And I think we would all blush if we all could see what popped up first. Because we can't always control what pops up first in the results bar. So I would urge everyone to be intentional and consistent, because what it has done for me is given everyone who in my social circle the confidence to refer me. Everyone that I meet on first glance, it gives me a certain legitimacy to my business practice. And it also, as far as being intentional and consistent, holds me accountable to consistently be providing worthwhile information. To our earlier point, you don't want your message to get stale. So I would urge everyone from that standpoint, if you are doing social media content for real estate, to be intentional, to try to make it as quality as you can within your budgeting constraints, because these things live in perpetuity. So videos that we put out 3 years ago, the only reason someone may know it was old is because our hairstyles may change, but they will be there forever. So from that standpoint, I urge everyone to just keep those things in mind, because those can be a real benefit to help build your business.
Well, I would like to thank each and every one of you before we open it up for questions. Today's been really good. And now, do we have any questions in the room and or on Zoom? No questions in the room? I do written you some words, but I'm gonna have to go Google because I don't know them words.
Okay, so, but earlier, Ms. McCollum, you spoke about the seller's guide, and we just want to know what it's like.
Oh, okay.
So there you
So I created it on camera. So basically, it's like an introduction of the team, right? Introduction of the team, who's on the team, a little bit of background about myself, and then it also has a list of vendors that I use, inspectors that we use, and it has when I do the properties, because you're doing initial evaluation. And then I take different homes, like you said, neighbor homes and things like that, and I plug it in, and I can do the values there without actually giving them their value, right? And a little bit about the community and the neighborhood. So I package all that after the initial conversation, let them know it's coming through, and it also tells them the different things that they can begin to work on and what they may need to do, right? And then by the time I get out there with them, they have a kind of expectation of what we're coming to discuss, possibly go over that, and then go into the additional solicitation. So that follows the conversation.
So is it the same, you have the same template, the only thing that changes is the comps?
The comps, yeah.
Well, the house.
And the house, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
like all
information,
the
yeah.
other stuff stays,
Mhm.
that's all.
Yes.
Change.
Yes.
I have a question. So once you send that probably cuts down the time that you're gonna be there, because now they have an expectation of what to expect from you, and you're basically going in ready for them to sign.
No. It's great that I know what I'm doing. It's a
Now you gotta
presentation.
Yeah.
It's just initial, because I don't have a conversation.
But is there a lot more, like, is that the only time you go in to talk to them? Because you know.
So you have your conversation, right? So now I talk to you, right? And I set an appointment, right? Now they emailed you. Now I'm gonna call you to make sure you got the email, right? And I'm touching you all the way up until the meeting, until I get out there, because I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to get you to use me, right? So a lot of people don't give things up front, right? She said open hand. Now I talk with you, and then now I'm giving you something initially. Now we have something to discuss. I'm gonna call you, right? Hey, have you received this? You have any questions about it? Is anything, anything else you need to see, right? When can I come out?
Right.
When can I, are we still good for this day? Are we still good for that day? So it's just putting you in position
Right.
to set the stage to win.
And then you go out, you know, you guys address things, then you may have to go out to make sure they address those things that you talked about addressing before you put the house on the market. It's still a lot.
And the seller doesn't have to guess.
Right.
So once you get there, are you getting there to close? Is what kind of like the bottom line question.
No, you still have work to do. You still have.
You gonna close so you think.
Yeah.
Like
well,
that,
That's what you want your goals.
That's what the
it doesn't
goal is
always
to be,
happen
but
that way.
it's-
Sometimes they may be interviewing other realtors. and not
Right.
only just you.
But I mean,
Right.
when your goal, your expectation is what I'm saying, once you get there, is your expectation to say, okay, you're expecting them to sign the listing agreement?
I always,
Yes.
always.
Oh, yeah. So,
Yeah.
no,
I
okay, so
always
I'm
get
saying,
prepared when
no,
I
the
go to
seller's
the
guide is
presentation.
just that.
Yeah.
Your seller's guide to all of the different things of how to sell a home, how to sell your home, what it looks like possibly, right? Your listing presentation is a little bit different and more detailed because you're in person. Is that what you're gonna say? So my seller guide is not my listing presentation.
Okay, yeah, so
I
I'm
think that's
thinking that, yeah, so maybe I was getting the listing guide and the presentation confused. So my question, I guess, was when you get there, are you getting there to, is that the last step in that seller's presentation that you expect them to sign on the bottom line and now you're done?
But that's.
I'm using it to get the appointment.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I'm
the
using it to
expectation.
kind of,
Okay, yeah.
Once you go there, like after you did I'll do like initial phone consultation.
Right.
We talk on the phone,
Right.
they're telling me the listing, you know, what they're interested in, I get their address, all of that stuff. At that point, I'll start running comps, I ask them any other information I need to know beforehand. I set up a time to meet them in person so I can actually see their house.
Right.
I send them, I have a seller's guide and I have a buyer's guide. I send them the seller's guide in advance, but I also take a physical copy with me to give them when I go see them on an initial day. When we go there, my seller's guide tells them basically the process of selling the house,
Right.
what to expect. It has some vocabulary words in there. It'll tell tips about listing the house as far as, you know, decluttering and all the stuff like that. It has a lot of different stuff. It'll tell about my team that I'm on, my contact information, all of that. And so that's what the seller's guide is. But me going there in person for that presentation, at that point, that's where I go in, like she said, more in the detail. But I have all this stuff prepared in advance, the listing, contract, all agreement, everything done in advance. So we're done, and they say, okay, we wanna move forward with it, because at the end of that, that's what I wanna know. Are you ready to move forward with it? Or what else needs to be done? They tell me they're ready to move forward with it, okay, I send them that, they can sign it electronically. And then we go from there with everything else that needs to be done, because of course, at that point, you need to send over paperwork for the actual listing. To, you know, be able to list it on the MLS and all of that. If it still needs work on it, then it's coming soon, not ready yet. They gotta, how long out is it going to be before it's actually active? Or when you're scheduling to send a photographer to do photos, if that needs to be done. Do they need to do repairs or declutter, all of that beforehand? You're planning all that, and that may be done in different ways, whether it's a phone call, you're doing it right there in person, you're sending an email follow-up afterwards or whatever, but it's not like once you stay signed, that's just, okay, everything done.
Oh, right,
It's
no,
not-
I just mean as far as getting them to sign that listing.
Oh, okay, yeah,
The bottom line.
yeah.
And do we have any questions on Zoom, Ms. Shay?
Any questions on Zoom?
Everyone's got a thumb up.
What that means?
He got a green mustache. That is not sorry.
Oh, that can be.
He's mine.
Yeah.
He know I've been laughing. Yeah, it is.
You got a different angle, that's what it was.
That's it.
Alright.
All right, so shall we go end it? That's it. I wanna
Appreciate
thank
y'all.
everybody out there listening in, joining in with us. And we're done.
If you need me, I'm always here with you. Check y'all out soon.
Those are the big words he was using.
Stop. You done heard. Anybody who never signed an entertainment contract know what perpetuity means. That's what it means forever. They gonna have your bread forever. That's what it means.
Thank y'all for joining. Y'all have a good afternoon.
It was really.
Yeah, I'm talking like a dude been robbed before.
I think it's
I've been robbed for my perpetuity.
I just, you had 10 minutes to spare.
I didn't have to.
You did.
Okay. Drop the price to $199. I got a cash dude who came through at
Thank y'all for joining
$175.
on Zoom.
Then
We're gonna close it out.
Thank you again. Everything was great. Very much appreciate the information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Evans.
Y'all, we still got all this food over here.
I need a better cover photo.
Hey,
Hey, y'all,